We can't always go and clean the pool or play with the dog because we don't always work from home. But at work, there are many opportunities to procrastinate. Like I said, I needed to take a break. Now, we all know it's good to take a break every now and again. But if I do it too often and for the wrong reasons, it becomes another way of procrastinating. And we can become very good at using reasons that sound legitimate to procrastinate. One thing that there's no substitute for is self-discipline. And self-discipline is your biggest friend when it comes to managing your time. Why do I say that? Because after all, we don't have control over many of the distractions or interruptions that happen during our day. But we do have control over some of them. So I have control over my screen time on a personal smart device. I can decide how much time I use to scroll Facebook or read the latest tweets or read news sites or just surf for stuff. That is within my control. And that is one decision away from taking control or not having control. Other thing that I do have control over is how I handle distractions and interruptions. Sometimes we feel that we've got to say yes to every request. We always have to be available to everyone. And of course, once you've learned to use the urgent and important matrix, you know that's not the case. Your work is always your priority. What do I do about bad habits? Well, that's really a question of decision. I can decide to change a habit. But don't I need discipline for that? Yes, you do. And discipline is only a decision away. Discipline is me deciding, not hoping, wishing, dreaming, thinking about, contemplating, plotting, planning, scheming, and devising about changing something. It's a decision. It is saying to myself that from today on, X, Y, Z will happen. Now, here's the thing. Do you keep your word to yourself? Because I don't know about you, but in my experience, it's much harder to keep my word to me than what it is to keep my word to other people. I wouldn't dream of breaking my word when it comes to other people. It's fairly easy to break your word to yourself because who's going to know? It's just you and you. And after all, you can justify, you've got all those reasons why it is actually perfectly okay to not keep your word to yourself right now. You know what your long-term goal is, but you also know what your short-term, let's call it craving, what the short-term craving is or a short-term desire. And very often the two will interfere with one another. So although my longer goal for today is to be really productive, get things done, my shorter goal is to go onto Facebook. And those two aren't going to work together. So one of your biggest allies and your best friend in time management, remember, is discipline. And it's also discipline to use the tools, to apply them. It's no good knowing about a tool and you don't use it. And it's also no good only using one tool. You know what Abraham Maslow said? If you only have a hammer, everything will start looking like a nail. So we need more than one tool. And I'm going to tell you about another tool in a few minutes. We've already spoken about two very handy tools, maybe even three. The one was the urgent, important matrix. That is a must use in time management. We've also spoken about scheduling and about making a to-do list. Guys, your day isn't complete today if you haven't made tomorrow's to-do list before you leave the office today. Why? Because it gives me direction. If we don't have direction, it's so easy to come into the office and float for a while before you really get stuck into what you need to be doing today. I need to do my planning for today, yesterday. I need to do my planning for tomorrow, today. So when I come in, I've got a to-do list, I've started scheduling already, and I can start getting productive. Not show up at work, I can start being productive straight away. Another tool that I love using is, yes, you're right, it's a box. Now, it's just to illustrate something. Anything that I take and I put into the box is now inside the box. It's not half inside and half outside. It is inside the box. The tool that I'm referring to is called time boxing. That is where you literally take a chunk of your time, and it's almost as if you use it like a box. And you've got a specific task to do, and you time box that task. You know that if you allow yourself just to carry on and on, it's easy to spend a week on that. But ideally, you want to finish that this afternoon within 3 hours. That also helps us not to spend too much time on tasks that have the potential to take up more time than they should. And I'm going to dare say something that's specifically often a perfectionist trait, is something that should take 3 hours, takes 3 days, because we try and get it so perfect that we actually overwork it and we waste time, and if we waste time, we waste money as well. So I box off a certain chunk of time and I put a certain task in there, and that is the amount of time that I use for that task. Another way of time boxing, now it's also called the Pomodoro technique, but at the moment there's some controversy about using that term because it seems like it was copyrighted. So let's talk about that also as a form of time boxing, where you divide your day into 25 or 30-minute chunks. And after every 25 or 30-minute chunk, you take a 5-minute break. Those breaks are scheduled. They do not go over 5 minutes, and they're also not much shorter than 5 minutes. What it does is it gives your day a certain structure. And when I go and sit and I start with a new 25-minute chunk, I already have in mind what I would like to achieve within that 25 minutes. Before I take my next break, I want to be done with this part of my work. It helps me to stay focused, and what it obviously does is it helps me to set miniature goals all throughout the day if I divide my day in those chunks. So what happens when I take a 5-minute break? Don't I lose focus? No, because I've set a goal of what I want to complete in that time. I complete it. I give my brain and my body a break in those 5 minutes, just by getting up, moving around the office, not keeping other people out of their work, taking a sip of water, maybe going to the bathroom, standing at the window and just breathing, maybe even doing a few stretches. you are able to re-energize your body and your brain. Remember, your brain is not an organ that can just carry on and carry on and carry on working. Your brain takes a lot of energy. And if we don't re-energize and recharge often enough, we find ourselves becoming sluggish, less accurate, and towards the end of the day, you'll feel that you're not very productive at all if you just push and push and push. So, discipline, best friend. Scheduling, to-do lists, urgent and important matrix. Use time boxing to allocate time to tasks, and also use it to structure your workday so that you've got focus chunks and breaks in between. I hope that helps.